Springfield's Talk 104.1. Good Tuesday morning. My name is Nick Reed. We are going to have an opportunity for you to get some of those solar eclipse glasses this morning. We had some out last Friday at Scramblers, and I know many of you got your pair for the upcoming solar eclipse. You know, you got to have them in order to look at it. I mean, I guess you don't have to, but you'd be really sorry if you don't. And custom shade window tinting, which is a division of Springfield Wraps, providing those solar glasses today from 7 until 9 at Ming Auto Beauty Center. We'll have one of our folks out there. I believe we'll have a KSGF sort of tent thing set up, so it'll be easy to see. And you can just swing in, get a pair or two. If you don't have any yet, you can, of course, buy them, but this is just a chance for us to, do something a little bit fun, along with custom shade window tinting of Springfield Wraps. And again, that'll be 7 until 9 o'clock. If you don't make it by there this morning, if we have some left over, which I anticipate we will, because we got a pretty high volume of them, then we will announce some other locations later. We'll have those posted at ksgf.com. And, of course, we'll talk about it once those decisions are made as to where we will be doing that. Ming Auto Beauty Center, it is just off Republican National, up just a bit towards the east, on the same side of the road as Scramblers, so that's where you'll be able to find that. And if you need any further details or you forget exactly where it is, you can go to ksgf.com and get that information. The overnight breaking news that there's a great deal of focus on is this massive bridge collapse in Maryland, Baltimore. It's the Francis Scott Key Bridge, and there is video of it. And, in this day and age, virtually all bridges have some form of video on them, and this is no exception. And what appears to have, what did occur is last night there was a huge cargo ship that just, right into one of the main pillars, and it caused the bridge to collapse. And the imagery immediately for me, if you've ever seen the Mothman prophecies, where there is this scene that they're on the bridge, and it wasn't from a cargo ship or anything, but it was a massive bridge collapse, and in my mind, just visually, that's what I was thinking of. And then when you see the video, it is somewhat very, very similar to that. Of course, if you haven't seen the video, this isn't a scenario in which it's a, threading a needle situation. There was plenty of room as to not hit. This was not an easy or a difficult miss, I should say. This, of course, leading to a tremendous number of questions like, well, why did this happen? It's not something that you look at and you go, oh, gosh, boy, that was just an accident waiting to happen. I imagine there's one of just two that jump out at me. Broad possibilities. One, medical emergency of whomever was steering the cargo ship, or a deliberate act. And I say that, one, because this is not a difficult thing to miss, this pillar of the bridge. And it just appears as if there was a deliberate turning into that main pillar. So these things oftentimes, whether it's a vehicle accident, you hear about it's a medical emergency, whomever was steering the thing had a heart attack, had a stroke, just dropped dead. So, it could be that, or again, with terrorism, and that's something that is not uncommon, particularly when it comes to infrastructure. That is something that people are going to wonder as well. Now, I think that arguably, if this were, some of the broader questions that might work against the very, very early spitballing, well, could it be a terrorist form of attack? Is that it happened, in the middle of the night when there wasn't a tremendous amount of traffic. There were some construction vehicles apparently on the bridge. There have been a couple of people rescued. It appears as if most, if not all, of the individuals that they are searching for were some form of construction crew that happened to be on the bridge at the time of the collapse occurring. So you would think, oh, if your goal was to carry out some sort of horrific terrorist attack, it would be during rush hour traffic, not at a time when there's the least amount of people that are there. Of course, you could always argue, well, it was some sort of test run, or it could have been, you never know, another possibility, somebody is just flat out suicidal. I mean, there have been plane crashes for those sorts of reasons. Somebody that was just mad and angry at the employer. I mean, there are a number of, I suppose, irrational reasons somebody could have deliberately done that. But I suspect, again, it's probably either medical emergency or it was done deliberately. It just does not appear to be the sort of thing that recklessness or just a lack of paying attention would cause. But you never know. So, but I'm sure because this involves transportation, I know I feel much better knowing that Pete Buttigieg is going to be on this case, don't you?
That was my first thought. We're like, well, how long will it take him to get out there?
Did Buttigieg ever even comment on the number of different airplane incidents that have occurred with hard landings or doors just getting sucked off the planes? I don't remember.
I don't think he has.
Yeah, does he not seem completely and totally absent? Buttigieg strikes me as a guy that either he's realized or the administration has realized he was so over his head. He was a DEI pick, if he were not, openly homosexual, married with a child that he took his paternity leave on. He never would have gotten that position to begin with. Indiana mayor, white guy, nothing remarkable about him in the minds of people on the left other than alternative lifestyle. And you give these people these jobs, and they have no business whatsoever at them. Buttigieg's own declaration when he accepted the nomination was that his experience, that what made him ready for it, was that when he was in college, he rode a train. Oh, okay. I mean, I had surgery once. I guess that means I can walk right into the operating room or run a hospital. That was his justification, if you will, for getting that appointment. And as there have been a number of these incidents occurred, and I think that the train wreck out in East Palestine was the real highlight of the mistake in simply putting somebody, because of the boxes that they check off, in a position they're not qualified for. That it seems as if after that, because prior to that, Buttigieg was everywhere. He was popping up everywhere. And then it's just, you don't see him. And here is something, well, like I said, with the planes and even some of the major delays around holiday time, you don't hear much from him. He's certainly not out there making a point of it. A door getting sucked off an airplane. Where's this guy? This is transportation. I would think it would fall under his umbrella. And now this bridge situation will be interesting to see whether or not anybody even mentions. I don't even feel like people wonder where he is anymore. There for a while, it was, hey, when is Buttigieg going to speak on this? Where's Buttigieg? This is something that he should be doing. He should be providing information as to what's going on. He should be proactive. I don't feel as if that expectation is even there any longer. It's just like, okay, we got this guy figured out. He is pointless. He's worthless. We understand why he got the job. So if we're looking for real answers, we'll go elsewhere. I saw you shake your head when I mentioned Mothman prophecies.
Yeah, actually, that's kind of what I thought, too. The moment that you said it, I was like,
yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Had you seen the footage?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's going to be an item that gets a lot of discussion today. I wonder who will be the first one to somehow manage to blame Donald Trump for this. It sounds insane. Someone's going to figure it out.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there'll be some claim that there was, that funds were supposed to go to infrastructure in Baltimore. Or there will be someone on the left that makes this political in some capacity. I guarantee you, newsrooms across this country, on a national level mostly, They're Googling Francis Scott Key Bridge, Trump, to see if they can find anywhere where maybe Trump did something that didn't allow for funding that was needed, or that there were people claiming that there needed to be safety upgrades, but Trump did some executive order that prevented it from occurring. That's how their minds work. These people are psychotic, crazy. Have a look at the weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update. All right, well, Pete Buttigieg has posted on social media that he's monitoring things, so
Yeah.
pretty much. Okay.
I feel a lot safer now.
I know, I do too. I do too. The First Alert forecast sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. From Color 10 Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Mostly cloudy today, a high near 46, 28 tonight. Widespread frost before 10 a.m. tomorrow. Otherwise, a sunny day, 55, and warmer on Thursday. Still some widespread frost to start us out Thursday morning, but then sunny with a high near 64. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. The weather in the Ozarks, it's going to be all over the place this week. Rain, wind, frost, we have got it all in the forecast. Now, with those seasonal temperature changes that we're going to experience, that can actually cause your roof to flex and heave, and that can actually cause nail pops, which then leads to leaks later down the road. So if you are noticing any issues with your roof whatsoever, I want to recommend Josh and his team over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. Whenever you hire the Pyramid team, you are going to be getting the trusted experts in the Ozarks. They are going to come out. They'll do a thorough roof inspection for you. They're going to check for nail pops. They'll check around your vents. They're going to make sure that your gutters are working and up to par. And then they're also going to get into your attic, and they're going to check your decking as well, so you don't have any surprise repairs later down the road. And whenever it comes to things like ice and water shield, they're not going to cut corners. They're going to go that extra mile to put it on the eaves, on the valleys, and around box vents or pipe flaps flashing as well. So if you are looking for a trusted roofing expert, the Pyramid Roofing Company is the company to go with. Now you can schedule a roof inspection today. You can find all of that contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Someone had texted in on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line noting that there was speculation that perhaps that ship, there was some sort of massive power outage, and that's what potentially caused it to veer into that main pillar of the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. But, this seems like one of those situations, whether it's medical emergency, deliberate, or some sort of technical issue like that, that in all likelihood will be determined at some point. But there will also be conspiracy theories, because there's always those. No matter what, no matter how straightforward and clear and obvious that it may be, there will be some conspiracy theories. I want to talk just a little bit this morning about a number of different reports that are coming out, because the tide, when it comes to this effort to lure kids into getting sex change operations, telling them that, this is why they're confused about their bodies and that they may kill themselves if they don't get the operations. And the rest of the world is recognizing the tremendous and horrific damage that is being done to young people. Unfortunately, the United States, they used to really lead the world, particularly in intellectualism, has at least one political party and some medical unions or organizations that are doubling down and doing what they can. Almost, it's like to scoop up as many kids as they possibly can before people wake up to the science here in the United States like they have in a number of other countries. And there have been a couple of different reports, and one is regarding a French report. The practice of sexually transitioning children will be remembered as one of the greatest ethical scandals in history of medicine, a report commissioned by French senators stated. The landmark report, produced at the behest of the center-right Les Républicains in the French Senate, found that the medical industry embarked upon the practice of giving children life-altering transgender treatments with little evidence of its effectiveness while ignoring the side effects. The report found that while parents were often pressured by doctors to put their children on puberty-blocking drugs to prevent suicide, there's little proof that this course of action has any better outcome for the child. The head of the plastic surgery department at the Georges Pompidou Hospital in Paris, Laurent Lantieri, told the report that there was absolutely no evidence that sex changes for children improve their quality of life because, quote, there are obviously no randomized trials. Meanwhile, there was a prevalence of depression and other mental illnesses among children seeking to change their gender. The report found that 70% of those seeking gender reassignment had anxiety, depression disorders, and 30% had been previously suffered some form of a trauma, typically sexual abuse. Most disturbingly, the study found that 30% of children seeking to change their gender were found to have been autistic, although they were often undiagnosed. And this, of course, makes sense because this is how these young people get targeted. When you have a young person that doesn't feel as if they're fitting in, you have a young person that is suffering from anxiety or depression, you have people that take them down this path of their gender and how they may be, quote, trapped in the wrong body, and how people just like them, children, kids just like you, kill themselves unless they you get sex change operations. So it makes sense that you have a massively high number of kids that are sexually abused, suffer from anxiety or depression, or have autism, end up being coaxed into getting sex change operations. The study also found that the evidence of the safety of prescribing puberty blockers to children was also, quote, based on very fragile bases. The report noted, pointing out that the justification for the administration in France was based on the so-called Dutch protocol developed in the Netherlands 2 decades ago. The protocol claimed the effects of puberty blocker drugs given to children as young as 12 years old were reversible, yet the French report, and this isn't the only report that has shown this, said that that report was not trustworthy given that it was only based on the observation of 54 patients and was funded in part by a pharmaceutical company, a firm which produces, guess what, puberty-blocking drugs. Now, of course, the left, if the tobacco industry funded some sort of research project and came out and said, there's no evidence whatsoever that smoking causes any physical harm, the left would pitch a fit about the complete and utter conflict of interest. Yet when it comes to a pharmaceutical company that sells puberty blockers that say, guess what, these things are great, the left falls right in line and touts that study as proof that they should be given to children. Conversely, Denmark, Finland, Sweden, and the UK have all begun to restrict the use of puberty blockers given their side effects and often lifelong impacts, which the report says indicates that the world is at a turning point on transgenderism. And of course, once again, the United States is way behind on this. The report noted that much of the rise in gender transitioning has been a byproduct of it becoming fashionable on social media and elsewhere, noting that hospital stays for transgender purposes increased threefold from 2011 to 2020 in France, from 536 to 1,615, while just 4 surgeons in France were performing vaginoplasties in 2022. There are now at least 30. Concluding the report, quote, ultimately, there is every reason to believe that youth gender transition will be considered one of the greatest ethical scandals in the history of medicine. An ethical scandal approved by the medical profession, schools, universities, media, and policies. Now, there is also another report, and this one really is detrimental to those who are part of what I do. It's a cultural cult. And it's information that's coming out of the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. It is the leading transgender healthcare organization, and it goes by WPATH, W-P-A-T-H. And I want to share some of that information as well. And there are arguments there that the information they're finding is that this transgender craze is going to come to an end because of the tremendous amount of damage that it's actually doing to young people. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Friday Road Show, sponsored by Extra Mile Home Inspection and Real Estate Repair. At Scramblers this Friday will also be a free Veterans Breakfast, Heroes Breakfast for veterans. If you're a veteran, come out. Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, Delta Roofing, Serenity Honors, and Scramblers all coming together to buy you breakfast. That is this Friday, 6 to 9 at Scramblers. Traffic update, I'm Nick Reed. First alert forecast sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. From Color 10 Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Mostly cloudy, a high near 46 today, 28 for a low tonight. Widespread frost in the morning, mainly before 10 a.m. tomorrow with a high of 55. And same on Thursday, but a bit warmer eventually with a high of 64. There's recently a report that was released in France regarding kids and transgenderism that is showing what increasingly actual scientific studies are showing, and that the claims that have been made about why kids should be coaxed into getting sex change operations are not only not true, but the opposite is true. And what they're finding is you have sort of this chicken and egg situation here where you've got a disproportionately high number of kids that are depressed, suffer from anxiety, were victims of sexual assault, or are autistic that make up the kids that end up getting talked into having sex change operations. Now, what people who promote sex change operations with kids will tell you is, well, that's because they need it. That's what helps them. But what we're finding is, no, that is not true. Much of the information that is coming out now showing the damage that is being done to young people is from the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. Clearly not an anti-trans or transphobic organization. This is the leading transgender health organization, healthcare organization in the world. And there are increasing number of whistleblowers within the organization, as well as new reports showing that transgender medicine is not grounded in science. Moreover, the treatments have not led to any decrease in suicidal tendencies, which has been the linchpin for pushing gender mutilation surgeries for minors. Second, for those becoming trans men, that is, women who get convinced that they need to be a boy in order to find happiness, the injections of testosterone have shown increased levels of tumors in the liver, which functions differently based on gender. It almost seems as if sex isn't a social construct, but a defined scientific one that cannot be altered. And this is one of the dangers about DEI when it comes to race or this, the transgender movement, that you just pick your gender, and the denial that different people have different reactions to different medicines, or that some people are more susceptible to certain diseases. And what they're finding here is this fantasy world that you can just pick your own gender, that your body does not define that, and trying to live in that world is having this head-on collision with reality, and it's damaging the very people that this is all supposed to be helping. The WPATH files, this is the World Professional Association for Transgender Health. The files themselves should be seen in a broader context of revelations and confessions from the whistleblowers and employees of the gender medicine industry itself. The UK government shut down its leading gender clinic after its own employees blew the whistle. A St. Louis gender clinician last year similarly blew the whistle. And we talked about that on the air here with Andrew Bailey specifically, which incidentally we're going to have him on up after 7:30, Attorney General. One of the founders of gender-affirming care in Europe recently denounced the overuse of drugs and surgeries. Dr. Erika Anderson has argued for years that there are too few guardrails to protect children, adolescents, and vulnerable adults. Meanwhile, medical journals are publishing a growing number of scientific articles debunking the leading trans myths. A major Finland study found gender medicine to offer no benefits in terms of reducing suicide and suicidal feelings among people with gender dysphoria. And earlier this week, journalist Ben Ryan resurfaced a 2021 study that found that trans women who underwent genital surgery had twice as many suicide attempts after the surgery than before. Twice as many. Again, this is contrary to what you've been told, that the surgeries don't lead to increased suicide. They save young children from killing themselves. Defenders of gender medicine are responding to the revelations. In response to the WPATH files, Stat News claimed we had exaggerated the link between hormones and cancer in trans-identifying natal females. But even a cursory review of the evidence shows that testosterone has already been linked to cancer. A 2020 paper in The Lancet found that a 17-year-old trans-identifying natal female had developed liver tumors in connection to testosterone use. Although that research has been inconclusive, as it was noted at the time, there was another 2023 paper that found multiple cases of liver tumors linked to testosterone use. What's more, we were not the ones to make the cancer link from the WPATH files. It was suggested by WPATH-affiliated doctors themselves. These are transgender health doctors. And it turned out that testosterone use can cause far worse damage to livers than it was realized. The liver is sexually dimorphic as an organ, meaning it exhibits major differences in males and females. Now, of course, the activists would want you to believe that certain people were assigned certain livers at birth. This is what they say when it comes to male and female, that you were assigned that at birth. Well, pretending as if gender is something that you're simply assigned and you can choose it is causing these females who's because they are female, biologically speaking, their livers deal with hormones in a different way, that they are having these cancer incidents that just get dismissed. Oh, there's nothing to see here. Let's move along. The report notes that one of the main reasons the trans craze is coming to an end is because of the coalition of feminists, conservatives, liberals, and non-ideological professionals, intellectuals, and activists who fought for years against it. We should feel gratitude towards those individuals, particularly those who suffered greatly for their service. Trans activists destroyed the careers of journalists. They've destroyed the careers of academics, administrators, and anyone else who stood in the way of their agenda to transform medicine, sports, prisons, and much else. People have lost their jobs in universities worldwide, particularly in North America and Europe, and many of those same people fought heroically. While there are medical and political reasons why transgenderism is coming to an end, the underlying reason is that gender-affirming care has no basis in science. The idea that someone can change their biological sex is ungrounded from reality. And what is yet again another sad reflection on the culture in this country, or at least those who set the tone of the culture. The United States of America, which once upon a time was the leader of intellectualism in the world, which is why we were the leader in advancements, particularly technologically and medically speaking, that we are way behind every other civilized nation on this issue. And as it was noted in the French report earlier, this will be seen as one of the largest medical ethical scandals in our lifetime. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Streaming live, KSGF.com. Also, YouTube Live, sponsored by Springfield Wraps. Talked, I believe it was last week, that there were rumblings that something was going on with the anti-Trump Republicans and these resignations from Congress. That, and I mentioned to Congressman Burleson yesterday on air here that it seemed unusual to have not necessarily just a high number of Republicans saying that they aren't going to run for re-election, but completely drop out. And in fact, one of those individuals, if he had, I believe it was in Wisconsin, Representative Gallagher, if he had dropped out just days before, when you look at the calendar, or I shouldn't say dropped out, but resigned just days before, there would have been a quick, relatively quick order special election. But he waited until after that day on the calendar so that there will not be a special election, and that seat will go without what was expected to be a Republican, it's a strong enough Republican district to replace him. Now it'll be until November. The idea here, this is what some believe is potentially going on. And it goes back to what some of the Supreme Court justices noted in their opinion regarding the inability of states to prevent Donald Trump from being on the ballot. And you had some of the justices noting that it was whose responsibility to do that? Congress's responsibility. Now, you had Amy Coney Barrett noting that, hey, we don't even really need to make any declaration. We don't need to issue an official opinion on whose decision it is or how that 14th Amendment mechanism actually does work. All we really need to do here is to judge whether or not, or to issue an opinion, whether or not states have the ability to do it. And so that was the divide. The left kept trying to claim it was actually a 5-4 decision. It wasn't a 5-4 decision. That 5-4 split was just a different, or 6-3, whichever it was, as to, they all agreed that the states had no ability to do it. But some of the justices said specifically because it is something set up for Congress. So the idea, the belief here is that there will be enough anti-Trump Republicans that not only that they don't just announce that they're not going to run for re-election, but they are going to vacate their seats so that Democrats will have a majority and then can move forward with banning Trump from the ballots, saying, hey, the Supreme Court justices said this is how it's supposed to be done. And even though that wasn't, part necessarily of, that wasn't the point of the ruling, that they will use that as justification, that they will have enough votes in Congress with all the Democrats, that they will pass, some form of legislation that cites the 14th Amendment, banning the American people from being able to choose Trump and just essentially installing Joe Biden in the presidency. Now, I don't know whether or not that is an accurate assessment of how this is going to play out. I do not believe any reasonable person who has observed to what attempts they will go in order to make sure Americans don't have that choice, that they could say, well, no, but they won't do that. I mean, they're trying to put the guy in prison. They're putting his attorneys or attempting to put his attorneys in prison. They're trying to bankrupt him. They're doing everything they can to keep him in court so he's not out there on the campaign trail. They have attempted to throw him off the ballot. The Democrats have. They tried it at the state level. So the idea that I know some people say, well, Republicans wouldn't do that. Look at the Liz Cheneys of the world. I mean, she is high profile along with Adam Kinzinger because of the January 6th show trials that were put on that committee. But there are other Republicans that hate Donald Trump just as much. And you think that these Republicans, it just doesn't make sense that they are not only just saying, well, I don't want to be in Congress anymore, but they're resigning. That they keep slowly but surely dwindling it down and down and down. What also wouldn't surprise me is if that were the plan, that they would time it after Trump gets the nomination. Because then what happens? I don't know the answer to that. I suspect if you get a bunch of constitutional scholars, you might have differing opinions as to what happens at that point. If a nominee is declared, okay, Donald Trump is the official nominee, and then Democrats, you get the anti-Trump Republicans, enough of them resign, Democrats are in charge of Congress, and they manage to utilize that majority in order to pass some sort of legislation saying Trump can't be on the ballot. Then what happens? Like so much else, we are in uncharted territory because the Democrats have taken us to a place that has never been seen in this country and is more in line with countries like Venezuela, Putin's Russia, Iran. And so it's uncharted territory, and only time will tell. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. There's a great question on the Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line regarding what many are speculating with the Republicans resigning from Congress. These are anti-Trump Republicans that are trying to give Democrats a majority so that Democrats can then use the 14th Amendment as Congress to ban Trump from the ballot. And so the text is, I was under the impression that when you vote for president, you're not actually voting for president. You're voting for the electors to go to the convention. This is the point of the Electoral College, the vote for Trump, not the people. So are you really removing Trump? How can they control what happens at the Electoral College? Now, I believe, I'm going off the top of my head here, and this is a great question. This is why I said that I don't know what would happen. I think you could get a number of different constitutional scholars that may have different perspectives on how that would play out. I do believe that every state has its own laws regarding whether or not the electors have to actually vote or cast the votes as the people do. And I want to say there was a lawsuit in Colorado regarding this, and it had to do with Hillary Clinton, and I forget the details of it, but there was, an elector that was, I believe, during that 2016 election, had gone to court claiming that he was not bound by the actual vote of the people of the state, but the state law, I believe, said, or, the party in the state said, yes, that was part when they sign. There's some sort of paperwork that is signed saying that you will vote the way that the people in, the state vote or the district or however. And again, that could vary state by state, as the state legislatures are ultimately responsible for setting up how that works, how, when it comes to the presidential elections. Those are the sort of things that, we would be grappling with should Democrats go to that extent. Look, I know there's a bit of a conflict here because on one hand, it does pose a very interesting constitutional question. But in the end, because of the lawlessness of the Democrat Party, well, it essentially is just an interesting intellectual exercise because they don't care. I mean, it makes no difference to them. I mean, none whatsoever. And people know it. We had last week, I believe it was, the survey that was done, and it notes that a majority of Americans fully believe that Joe Biden is trying to put Donald Trump in prison so that he can stay in power. A majority of Americans believe that. Only 30%, I believe, did not believe that to be the case. Only, think about that for a moment. It was 56% of Americans believed that that's what the Democrats were attempting to do, while 30% did not, and then you had the rest that, they didn't really know for sure. This is a Democrat Party who, with its support in the media, go on and on about the importance of being able to believe in our elections. This, of course, is why Donald Trump is so damaging to our, quote, democracy. Because he questioned the outcome of the election. Meanwhile, you have now only 30% of Americans, that includes Democrats, who don't believe Democrats are simply trying to put Biden's political opposition in prison for the purposes of keeping Joe Biden in the White House. Does that seem like a party that really genuinely is concerned about the perceptions of free and fair elections in this country? It sure doesn't to me. If they really are concerned about it, they don't do a very good job of making sure that Americans actually do have a great deal of trust in our democratic process. But that would be consistent with their ability to fail at everything else. News in 60 seconds. Having Emily Johnson with House Theory Realty represent us was a wonderful experience. She's incredibly professional, thorough. Her communication with us was absolutely superb. I'm sure she works with many clients at once, but she had a way of making my husband and I feel like we were her top clients. Another saying, if you're looking for a real estate agent who will give you 100%, her name is Emily Johnson from House Theory Realty. Emily was there for us 7 days a week. She made all of the signing effortless. She was referred to us, and we were so pleased with her work ethic that we also referred her ourselves. Emily deserves the best possible review. You will not be sorry if you give her a call. It's why for years I've been telling you about her, give you an opportunity to have the absolute best. It's a big decision when it comes to buying a home, selling a home, particularly in these questionable times, as we say. You want someone that really does have that passion and genuinely cares. They all say they care, right? But actions speak louder than words, and that's why so many people use their words to talk about the actions of Emily Johnson and why they recommend her. I do too. Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. Do you remember, Sarah, when we were talking about her report regarding the Biden with the illegal classified information documents that he had, and we talked about a number of the things that most people weren't talking about, sort of these weird things, and one of them was about Biden claiming that the only time that he was ever not honest was when he was defending a construction company, and he wrote a memo. The construction company was being sued because one of its employees had part of his private parts burned off. And so this construction worker was suing the company. And Biden, well, this is the only time that he told her that he was ever dishonest, that he wrote a memo that was so great that it had the case thrown out. And he felt so guilty about that because evidently what he wrote in the memo he didn't feel was honest, that's when he decided to go into public life and start defending the little guy, okay? Apparently, that is a lie. Because of course it was. Now, the story itself was so Biden-esque just in terms of how weird it was and the subject matter and everything. You thought, well, here's typical Biden. I don't know that it ever crossed my mind that was yet another story he was making up. But apparently it was. The details on that I'll share with you coming up here in just a couple of moments. Right now, the latest news update. First Alert Forecast, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements from Color 10 Fox 49. Meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Mostly cloudy today, high near 46, 28 tonight. Widespread frost before 10 a.m. tomorrow. Otherwise sunny, 55. Frost again Thursday morning with a high of 64. So Houston, our promotions director, he is out at Ming Auto Beauty Center. He has the solar glasses, which are quite fashionable, I might say. And they even have the KSGF logo on them. So how about that? That worth having just because of that logo, I would say. You'll also see on their custom shade window tinting. They're a division of Springfield Wraps. They purchase those glasses. So if you don't have for the solar eclipse that's coming up, a pair of the glasses. You may recall last time around they were running out. People, they had to poke holes in boxes and look at their driveway in order to get a quote visual of the solar eclipse instead of actually looking up. So if you want, and they're free. These have been purchased as a gift from Custom Shade Window Tinting. Just swing by Ming Auto Beauty Center. That exact address is 1273 East Republic Road. It's just east of National. And I believe, does he have a tent set up out there?
Yes.
It's awfully cold for him to
I
set all
know.
that
That's
stuff
what
up.
I said
Kinda
when he
feel
came
bad,
in to
yeah.
get the keys. I thought, whew, picked a bad day for this.
Well, he said, well, I'll probably sit in the vehicle. I thought, well, yeah, but I was thinking of having to set up that tent because one person can do it, but it's easier with
Kind of a
two
pain
people.
in the
Yeah,
butt.
it is kind of a pain in the butt, and then having to take it down. So I'm sure he's listening right now. Sorry, man.
He's texting.
Sorry. Oh, so just stop by and get one. If you want to get, if two, can I get one for my wife? That's fine.
Oh,
we just
he
don't want.
doesn't have the tent up. It's just the car.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, good. I feel a little better now.
I do
I feel a
too.
little less guilt. So just, you'll see there in Ming Auto Beauty Center, it's actually a Nitro. Got the KSGF Nitro set up, and just tell them you'd like one. Or like I said, if you want a couple, that's fine. We just don't want you grabbing fistfuls for, I'm going to have a party at my house. Like, yeah, no, I understand that. But we want to make sure that these last for a bit. Now, if a day before the eclipse we still have some, then I guess we'll just throw them out like crazy. But in the meantime, we ask that you be just a little bit, I don't know, thoughtful when it comes to getting one or two of those. All right, we're going to get a traffic update, and then I want to share with you what apparently is another Joe Biden lie. During, in that Her report that came out that noted his cognitive decline and that he wasn't seen, or that he was, his senility. He was too senile to stand trial, to be able to stand trial. And that's why the special prosecutor was not recommending that he be tried for stealing those classified documents and then hiding them and then illegally giving them to a ghostwriter who would destroy that evidence, at least some of it. And he told his story at one point about how he decided to get into public life, and it was the only time he's ever been dishonest. Well, it appears as if he was actually being dishonest about the being dishonest, because apparently he had nothing to do with that case whatsoever. That next, I'm Nick Reed. This may be my favorite story of the day. Did Joe Biden lie to then special counsel Robert Hur about his long-proclaimed political origin story? According to a new report, it looks like it. In October of 2023, while being questioned by special counsel Hur about Biden's illegal taking and storing of classified documents, the president decided to explain. The one time, the only time that he's ever lied, Biden claimed that as a young lawyer, he once defended a construction company against a worker who, quote, lost part of his penis and one of his testicles, end quote. As the tale goes, the president was so great at his job that he wrote a memo that got the case thrown out. He then supposedly felt so guilty at being so good at his job, he turned to a life of public service, not for the power, fame, and fortune, but to help the little guy. Fresh out of law school, working as a clerk at a high-powered Wilmington, Delaware law firm, Biden, in his telling, was tapped to defend a construction company sued by a 23-year-old welder who lost part of his penis and one of his testicles to a fire that broke out while he was working inside a chimney at a Delaware City plant. Thanks to Biden's shrewd legal defense on the construction company's behalf, the injured man lost the case. Quote, this is Biden telling to her, I wrote this memo, and son of a blank, it prevailed. And I looked over at that kid and I thought, son of a blank, I'm in the wrong business. I'm not made for this. But what? Oh, what? You don't think that sounds like... That's a quote. You see why it is that the Justice Department is desperately, they are refusing to turn over the audio of all of this questioning.
I want to hear it.
So do I. Doesn't that sound just like his telling of getting the top prosecutor fired in Ukraine? Son of a blank. What do you know, son of a blank? Biden claimed to her that he was so racked with guilt that he concocted an excuse to avoid a celebratory lunch with one of the firm's named partners and walked into the public defender's office to ask for a job that very day. Quote, it's the only time I've ever lied, Biden said. Do we really need to go down the list? I mean, just from what we know about. So, what's the problem with the specific story? Per the Free Beacons investigation, it almost certainly isn't even true. The story, apparently, from Biden's telling, is a work of fiction. Although Biden did work at a law firm tapped to defend a construction company in a negligence suit, like the one he described to her, the case concluded in 1968, while Biden was still in law school. And the welder didn't lose. He won the case, walking away with $315,000, more than $2.8 million in 2024 dollars. So a case like that did occur at the law firm, but Biden didn't work there yet, and the law firm didn't win. The welder did. Red State notes that Biden has been telling this story for decades. There's ample evidence he's been lying the entire time. The president appears to have inserted himself in a case his law firm lost while he was still in law school. In that instance, the welder won a very large judgment. There's only one other possible case that Biden could have been talking about, but no public record of it exists, and the law firm in question would not confirm his involvement. The details of the injury sustained also do not match the president's description. For as long as he's been on the political scene, he has been embellishing his background and so forth, and of course we know that. So I just love that the fact that what Biden uses to describe the one instance in which he claims the one time he's ever lied in his life, in and of itself was a lie. I honestly do believe that he believes some of these stories. I think that there are certain people that really genuinely are so detached from the truth that when they there's a, I'm going to throw out the old Seinfeld reference here, where Jerry is going to take a lie detector test to prove he didn't watch Melrose Place, and George is, he asked George how to beat one, and George is just like, that's not something, you have to believe that you have to actually believe the lie yourself. That's not something you can learn. I think that's where Joe Biden is. I think he could maybe pass a polygraph test on some of this stuff.
I think so too.
I think he genuinely, and I do think it is a combination of his senility with the fact that he just is detached from the truth. And some people are that way. The sociopaths. I think that there are some sociopathic tendencies, and you combine that with his cognitive issues. I think that some of these incredibly hilarious and ridiculous lies he tells, I think he could pass a polygraph on. In fact, I wish that he would take it, because we know they're lies. I mean, they're provable lies. These different stories that he tells, many of which he tells over and over and over again. I wish he would take a polygraph, not because I want to see him fail, because we all know he's not telling truth with some of this stuff, but I'm genuinely curious as to whether he could pass it or not, demonstrating that he really actually believes these stories himself. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Our promotions director, Houston, is at Ming Auto Beauty Center, 1273 East Republic Road. It's just east of National on Republic Road. You'll see the Jeep there that he's in. It's technically a Nitro. And he has some of the solar glasses for the upcoming solar eclipse so that you can look at it without your eyes burning from your head. And those are provided by Custom Shade Window Tinting, which is a division of Springfield Wraps. You're very familiar, Springfield Wraps. They are partners of ours. They sponsor our live stream on YouTube. Well, they have a division that is Custom Shade Window Tinting, and they are the ones who have provided those. So you can stop by. He will be there until either he runs out or 9 o'clock this morning at Ming Auto Beauty Center, and grab yourself a pair of those glasses so you'll be all ready. It has been very typical watching the media throw a tantrum over the hiring of Rona McDaniel. Now, it became, she's hired by NBC. Rona McDaniel is the former head of the RNC. And in terms of results, many people do not see her as a success. In fact, it was very clear Trump wanted her gone. She immediately out of the gate does what so many Republicans that have a great disdain for the Republican voter does and wants to curve favor with the mainstream and the elite and begins trashing on the base. You know, go on the shows and just, you know, and take the whippings and, you know, January 6th, January 6th, January 6th. It's just confess, confess. And it never does any good. This is what these folks never realize. You would think that Megyn Kelly would really demonstrate to these Republicans that they just are one-dimensional in their thinking, and it is a bit like a cult. You can't just come in. I mean, Megyn Kelly clearly was not a pro-Trump guy. She probably, more than anyone at one point, had a one-on-one public battle with Trump as a news person. Now, she also wasn't somebody that carried the water for Democrats, and that was her biggest sin. So whenever she left to go, I believe it was to NBC also, I mean, they just pitched fit about her until finally she was gone. You get Rona McDaniel, and I think these Republicans think that, well, because now I can be my true self and I can trash on Republican voters, the Trump supporters and Trump and J6ers and all that stuff, then they're going to welcome me with open arms. They're too spiteful for that, especially now. You know, you have people like Joe Scarborough and Nicole Wallace that were establishment Republicans, but, you know, they got in the fold years ago before the media became as insane as they've become, and they've certainly proven themselves. I mean, they're just as psychotic as the rest of the mainstream media. You had Karine Jean-Pierre suggesting that NBC hiring Rona McDaniel was an attack on our democracy. I mean, listening to these people, let me tell you what I think the benefit of this is, and evidently NBC is reconsidering whether or not they should continue what they had planned on having as a relationship with Rhoda McDaniel. By the way, she wasn't going to be a news anchor or anything, just somebody that came on to explain the Republican position. God forbid. Well, you can't have that, see, because there's only one opinion that's allowed. I remember several years ago, there was a media company, Sinclair. And Sinclair is considered conservative. I'm not familiar enough with their programming to say whether they are or not. Frankly, I don't even know. I mean, if you aren't an extreme, psychotic left-winger, the left wing considers you to be conservative. Wherever you could be moderate left, and you're not enough for them. So, whatever. But the point being is, it was during the period of time when people really began to question the integrity of the news. And Sinclair Broadcasting, with TV local news stations all over the country, they had all of their anchors do, sort of this, I don't know if it was the end or beginning of programming announcement, that essentially explained to the viewers what the mission statement of the company was, which, of course, there's one mission statement. It's a mission statement about not being swayed by this and that and, seeking the truth, whatever it was. Most companies have some sort of mission statement that lays out the vision, that lays out the purpose, and you can find it in a manual. And so Sinclair thought, you know what, we want to differentiate ourselves from everyone else, and so what we're going to do is we're going to have all of our anchors, put this out there to let them know this is who we are. Well, the left immediately began this viral campaign about how weird this is. Listen to this is crazy. They're just repeating the same thing like they're in a cult. Well, they were reading their mission statement. What we're seeing is the mission statement at play for the mainstream media. And that is, have no room for diversity, have no differing perspectives. We have one goal, it is to keep the power structure that we are part of in place. And right now, at this point in time, that means reelecting Joe Biden. And anyone who veers from that mission statement, we will publicly trash our own company if need be in order to make sure that that diversity of thought is gone. I don't even know why they have multiple panelists, why they have multiple voices, because they all sing in unison anyway. And their behavior at Ronna McDaniel, who is in no way, shape, or form some conservative Trumpster, that demonstrates that it is total and complete compliance and obedience that's required by them. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. First alert forecast sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements from Color 10 Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Mostly cloudy today, high near 46, 28, overnight low tonight. Widespread frost before 10 a.m. tomorrow, otherwise sunny with a high near 55. And Thursday, widespread frost in the morning, then sunny with a high near 64. Wilder RV, Clinton, Missouri. Many of you on your trek up to Kansas City, you've seen it. Like, oh, look at that. That's an impressive lot. They have a tremendous amount of inventory for every sort of RV and lifestyle that exists. If you are someone that it is part of your lifestyle, it is in your blood, maybe you just hit, locally, Truman Lake, you're closer to home, Table Rock Lake, or maybe you go out to Florida, Colorado, anywhere, Canada, Mexico, wherever it is that you go. Or you've never done it before, but you've always thought that would be really nice. Get away from it all. All across that spectrum, Wilder RV, they are the go-to place. Oh, gosh, it's an hour drive north on 13. Trust me, you will have no better just over an hour drive than that one. And when you check out their site, wilderrv.com, those prices you see, that's what you're going to get. You don't have to worry about getting up there, and they're like, oh, they drove all the way from Springfield. Well, we'll tack on an extra $99 for this service and then $120 for that service and so forth, and they've come all this way. That's not what you get with these folks. Frankly, they don't have time to mess with that stuff. They're straightforward. They're transparent. They don't talk down to you. And whether you are an expert RVer or you've never done it in your life, Wilder RV, you can find them at wilderrv.com. Now, we've got, and I'm going to get into another one of these stories here, but we have Attorney General Andrew Bailey listed for, but usually he calls us, right? I know we were talking about this off air, and I don't think I had a number down to reach out to him, but we'll find out what's going on. I guess, maybe at some point. We'll get it all worked out. Continuing on in this with the media and the caricature the media has become of itself. The downside is that in this country, we do not have a journalistic culture overall that is overriding. That is there to present to the American people information so that we know what's going on. They are activists. You watch some of these different broadcasts, and it's like a pep rally for Democrats. Genuinely, the pep rallies you have before the big game, and then, it's all cheerleading, and you're not there to talk about the losses and so forth. You're there just to get everyone excited and to talk about all the victories and how wonderful it's going to be. We're going to win, and then you bring up the opponent. Oh, man, for Carthage it was Webb City, and boo, and you poke fun at them a little bit, and you don't say anything nice about them whatsoever because they're the bad guy. That's what the media has become. Liam Neeson and Glenn Close were among the celebrities who've offered their voices to read excerpts of the indictment against President Trump for an ongoing MSNBC podcast. The podcast, titled Prosecuting Donald Trump, covers, quote, the historic indictments against their former president as they go to trial. Thursday's episode used Liam Neeson and Glenn Close to read some of the charges against the former president as special counsel Jack Smith and Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, respectively. Co-host Andrew Weissman and Melissa Murray repeatedly praised the actors for bringing personality to the characters of the attorneys. Murray gushed, I just felt like Liam Neeson was channeling Jack Smith here. This is for normal people, totally cringe. You just like, it's so cringy. I just felt like Liam Neeson was channeling Jack Smith here. It was like Jack Smith talking to America, but in an Irish brogue. And possibly with the ability to create a bomb out of a Snickers bar and save his daughter all at the same time. Weissman commented, I think Glenn Close could probably read anything and we'd like it. That's really serious. Weissman and Murray used the actors' reading to promote their new book on the Trump indictment. Actors Peter Coyote and Renee Elise Goldsberry appeared on Friday's episode to read experts from the Florida and Georgia indictments against Trump. The guest appearance on MSNBC podcast resembled past efforts by celebrities to dramatize legal issues of Trump. In 2019, several anti-Trump actors, including Alyssa Milano, took part in a 10-act live stream play focused on special counsel Robert Mueller's report regarding alleged collusion between the Trump campaign and Russian operatives, of course, which turned out to be a hoax. That play featured Annette Bening, Kevin Kline, Jonathan Lithgow, Ben McKenzie, Michael Shannon, Noah Emmerich, Justin Long, Jason Alexander, Gina Gershon, Wilson Cruz, Joel Gray, Kyra Sedgwick, Alfre Woodward, Piper Parabo, Zachary Quinto, and Aidan Quinn. This is a news network. That is a news network we're talking about that is using actors for one of their podcasts that it's listed as in an MSNBC podcast. Having actors read the transcripts, it's so over the top embarrassing. And it's double-edged sword, sweet, sour. Again, on one hand, it is an unfortunate illustration of how there is no journalistic culture in this country. And I say culture because it doesn't mean that there aren't any good journalists out there. I think there are a number of them. Generally speaking, they have been forced out of these major networks, Catherine Herridge being one of the most recent regarding CBS. But so what I'm talking about is the overall culture. What dominates in this country in terms of media: NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, CNN, these networks, and the embarrassing nature, the people that go on air and publicly denounce their own companies, specifically their own company, NBC, because they're hiring Rona McDaniel. Going on and on about, I mean, she was once paid to be a spokesperson for the RNC. I mean, well, there's no credibility there. You know how many people? In fact, I had a story here that lists just a few of the people that work at these networks that used to be paid by Democrat politicians. You've got some of the listing here. Of course, Jen Psaki is an obvious one. Now, what a lot of people don't necessarily realize is that, of course, Jen Psaki, she was, she's Biden spokesperson, and now she's over on MSNBC. But before she was working for Biden, she was working for CNN. Before she was working for CNN, she was working for Barack Obama. There's a revolving door that goes on. Simone Sanders, who jumped from the 2016 Bernie Sanders campaign to CNN, then to the Biden campaign in 2020, then becoming a spokesperson for Vice President Kamala Harris, and now at MSNBC. Donna Brazile, the acting chair at the Democratic National Committee. So she is the counterpart to Rona McDaniel, whatever. She's been a paid contributor on CNN, ABC, Fox News, of course, ABC News, George Stephanopoulos. He was one of the most influential and powerful people within the Clinton administration. And to have these people sit around and complain, well, this on air about NBC, they're going to hire somebody that was paid to be the chairperson of the RNC. We can't do that. That's just wrong. While the downside is the death of any true journalism, culturally speaking, on a national level in this country, The upside is they have become such embarrassing cartoons of themselves, caricatures of themselves, that people who are listening to them either know that they are not to be listened to with the expectation of receiving honest journalism, but instead just to hear what the Democrat Party's saying. And then there's also a segment that they want that cult mentality. They want to be in that echo chamber. They want validation for their beliefs on the left, and so they just tune it on, and it just soothes them, and it makes them feel good because of their behavior. And it's just such a sad and unfortunate thing that something journalism, the press, was recognized as so vitally significant to the overall health of our republic that it was decided we need to put it in the Constitution, and it has been squandered by these people. What a disgusting shame. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Whether you have an unexpected car emergency pop up, you're planning a road trip for this summer, or you're in the market to purchase a new vehicle soon, Avis, the car rental company, has a program for you. From daily rentals to short-term rentals to their brand new long-term rental program, they've got all your rental car care needs covered. And Avis, they have a vehicle for every trip, every lifestyle, from sports cars to heavy-duty trucks, SUVs, and even EVs and Ford cargo vans. And they just received their 2024 inventory in, so you could roll off the lot in literally a brand spanking new vehicle. Now, if you want more information on any of their programs, or you want to check out their current inventory, just swing by the Avis store. It's located right here in Springfield off of Fort and Sunshine. Make sure to speak to Lauren. And of course, you can find all of the contact information for Avis Springfield under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
I had mentioned earlier Attorney General Andrew Bailey joining us, but I think I don't know, there's some confusion there. It probably stems from me. Looked like I have it on the calendar today, but then the text messages seem to be for last week. I don't even know what's going on. So
did we have him on last week?
No, we didn't, but I never got a follow-up saying, hey, we tried to call, and so I don't know what happened. I'm sure I screwed something up. See, this is why I shouldn't be booking guests. That's why I should leave it to you.
It'd be worse if I was scheduling everybody. I'd be double booking people.
Well, a lot of time, it's just done through text, and then
I know.
And I'm not real bad about getting the wrong day on the calendar, but it does happen sometimes where on my phone, Tuesday, and
Yeah.
I had been maybe previously putting something, maybe it's like 3 weeks in advance, and I had put something on another day 3 weeks in advance, and so when I open it back up, it's 3 weeks in or down the road, but I
Yeah.
don't realize it. You know what
I'm
I'm
really
saying?
not. Yeah, I'm bad about that
That
too.
anytime I get it the wrong week, that's what happens, and it doesn't happen a lot. And I'm wondering if maybe that I don't know. It really doesn't matter. What is really great is for me to just talk about my complete incompetence on the air like this. California food chains laying off workers ahead of new minimum wage law. Yet again, here is reality. And who are the living wages supposed to help? The very people who are losing their jobs. We have so many people that are elected officials and political activists / social activists who run around claiming that they support certain categories of people and demanding that certain action be taken in the name of helping those categories of people, yet those are the categories who suffer. Oh, but the activists pat themselves on, oh, look what we did. Oh, look at what we did. We got $20 an hour for these people. Oh, the ones who get to keep their jobs. This is not a new concept. This happens anytime there is any sort of artificial increase in prices for entry-level employees. The money has to come somewhere or from somewhere. And oftentimes that is from other employees, right? We have to raise the cost per employee. We can't have as many employees, which means you have to lose some. Some California fast food locations letting go of workers ahead of the new $20 minimum wage law slated to take effect in April that will dramatically impact businesses' bottom line. Several eateries, particularly pizza chains, have begun to cut jobs in an effort to get ahead of the possible financial repercussions, according to the Wall Street Journal. Michael Oyeda, 29, a Pizza Hut driver in Ontario, California, told the newspaper that he received a notice from Pizza Hut franchise Southern California's Pizza in December informing him that his last day of work would be in February. Quote, Pizza Hut was my career for nearly a decade, and with little to no notice, it was taken away. Well, you can thank all of those people who care so much about you that they demanded the government step in, start making law that has entry-level wages jacked up so that it costs more people, or, it costs more money for those, so you got to cut people. Or you have to close stores at the money, or you have to jack up the price on the food, which further adds to inflation. In a state that already is squeezing the lower and middle class to the point that they are fleeing the state in record numbers. Last year, multiple Pizza Hut franchises in California filed notices to comply with the Worker Adjustment and Retaining Notification Act, saying that they were discontinuing their delivery services. Many of the services were delivery driver jobs, so they just cut out that service altogether. Can't afford. Where are we going to cut? All right, well, this is what it cost for us to have pizza delivered to people's homes, so no more. Oh, but I guess you can use one of those other services that adds an additional cost onto the price of the food so that those people can make money. So, yet again, you have a situation in which the average consumer suffers because the price is once again artificially jacked up and you have people losing their jobs. Is it any wonder that these sorts of policies, when you see them in play in states like California, lead to the rich getting richer and the poor getting poor? This is consistent. It's not difficult to understand the economics of it. You don't have to take Econ 101. It's basic common sense, or it should be anyhow. It's becoming less and less common. But even if you don't understand how a business works, and you don't understand that a business has so much money that comes in, and that if the cost of doing business goes up, that means they either have to cut some of their costs, or they have to increase the price of the product. Even if that is a concept that is unfamiliar with you, all you have to do is look at the history of what happens in every single municipality and every state where this happens. And here yet again, who suffers? Now, of course, the position of the current administration would be, well, evil Pizza Hut. Look how evil they are. They're just so greedy. They're going to cut these jobs. Yeah, that's what it is. Just keep telling yourselves that, and all those of you who vote for these policies, you just keep telling yourself that over and over and over again. Live in your fantasy world. Most people who live in a fantasy world do it because it's a better place than reality, yet for whatever weird reason, out at Ming Auto Beauty Center until 9 o'clock this morning, our promotions director, Houston, 1273 East Republic Road. It is just east of National, and he is out there with your brand new pair of solar glasses for the Great North American Eclipse. Custom shade window tinting, a division of Springfield Wraps providing those. All you got to do is stop by Ming Auto Beauty Center until 9 o'clock this morning and get your pair. KSGF.com. Your chance to win tickets to the hit musical Come From Away at Juanita K. The shows are Friday, April 12th, Saturday, April 13th. And it is the best musical winner all across North America, New York Times Critics Pick, so forth and so forth and so forth. So your chance to win. Other than the ads that they were running a few weeks ago on the plot of the musical and how well received it has been, I'm not familiar with it. So maybe you aren't as well, and I give you a chance to win tickets to see something brand new. That at KSGF.com. Springfield's Talk 1041. My name is Nick Reed. Friday Road Show at Scramblers, sponsored by Extra Mile Home Inspection and Real Estate Repair. This Friday will be a Veterans Breakfast. If you are a veteran, join us as we broadcast live, Scramblers, 6A to 9A, and you're going to get free breakfast thanks to Scramblers, Serenity Honors, Delta Roofing, Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Electrical. And that's probably all you need to know about that. I know you all have pretty much figured out how that works by now. We always have big crowds. I think one of our biggest crowds last month, it seemed like.
Yeah, I think we served 108.
Yeah, just veterans. Yeah, it was definitely over 100, 108, somewhere around there. And then, of course, non-veterans there as well. It's a great Friday to come out. And if you are a veteran, in addition to the breakfast, we almost always have folks that are there that also provide different services for veterans, whether it's building of ramps or connecting you up with someone else who had similar experiences as you did while serving, to maybe talk through some stuff. We try to have a number of folks on hand there on air oftentimes, but also just there in case you need it hooked up or just want to get to know any of those folks. So that will be that special breakfast coming up at Scramblers this Friday. Also, speaking of Scramblers, just up the road from Scramblers is Ming Auto Beauty Center, and that is where our promotions director is. As we speak, he is there giving away the glasses for the upcoming solar eclipse. And you need glasses to look at the sun for that, in case you weren't aware. And they've got to be the special authorized. That's not the word I'm looking for, but there's certain standards that are needed to be met in order to safely utilize the glasses to look at the solar eclipse. Custom Shade Window Tinting, a division of Springfield Wraps, providing those glasses. And you have until 9 o'clock to swing by Ming Auto Beauty Center there on Republic, just up from National, and grab yourself a pair, no cost or anything. That is all taken care of by Custom Shade Window Tinting. We'll look at the weather in a moment. Right now, the latest news update. The First Alert forecast, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals from Color 10, Fox 49, meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Mostly cloudy today, a high near 46, 28 tonight. Frost tomorrow morning, otherwise sunny, high of 55. Frost again Thursday, then sunny with a high near 64. And we have Springfield School Board member Kelly Byrne with us in studio. We talked with you last week, and you are not running for re-election. You're still in your current term, and there are, of course, on Tuesday going to be a lot of people that go to the polls. But we wanted to have you in again and just kind of give some. I don't know. It seems like there are certain things that are going on in the school district that, coming from people who are running, maybe you get a different perspective or answer than somebody who doesn't have to worry or thinking about getting reelected at this point. And doesn't mean one's better, more accurate than the other, but just a little bit different. And so we wanted to have you come in and talk to us about a couple of other things. One in particular, and this was when we had Laura Mullins on. Was that Monday? Was that yesterday?
I think it was yesterday.
My days are either going slow or fast. I don't know which one. And she talked about the disinformation out there about how some of these candidates, if they get on there, there's going to be extreme book banning that occurs. Extreme book banning. And this is a scare tactic that I find is oftentimes used in order to distract from what the real problems are. And so you can have the continued failure of the students, the decline of their education level, but the people who preside over that and are responsible for that say, hey, look over here. These are bad people. They're going to ban books. And so let's talk about that instead. And so it is a distraction. And I want to get your perspective on it. But I do want to, so we have more time to talk about it without having a break right in the middle of it, get a traffic update, and then we'll get your thoughts on that. Does that work for you?
Sounds great.
All right. Fantastic. Kelly Byrne joins us, Springfield School Board, and we're seeing this ramp up of the accusations that there's certain candidates that are going to be book banning extremists. And they don't really ever define exactly what that means, which I find interesting. And there's a number of different components to this. The president of the Springfield NEA was here on Monday, and she just flat out said this is total and complete misinformation, what is being put out there. I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
Thanks for having me this morning.
You're welcome.
I am happy to talk about book banning extremists or book banning extremism. Yeah, I did listen in to Laura Mullins yesterday, and she had discredited this claim as well. And one thing just real quick to point out about her that I thought was interesting as I was listening to that is, she represents the Springfield NEA, and of the endorsements of these candidates, that one seems to be the most spread out across crossing lines. You don't see any other endorsements that look anything like Landon McCarter, Dr. Mary Muhammad Khani, and
Right.
Dr. Kyler Sherman Wilkins. I think that speaks a lot to what maybe we're losing track of here sometimes, which is something that I find very important, which is intellectual honesty. They had certain things they wanted to look for, and divisions didn't concern them, and they just looked for people that were intellectually honest about solving the issues that face us, which is discipline and declining academic achievement. So just wanted to point that out. But as far as book banning extremism goes, This narrative's been floating around, and I thought it'd be great to talk about that this morning to get an idea of who are these book banning extremists and what is book banning. There is a PAC out there called Vote 417. I really don't know any details about this PAC other than that I think they got involved last year at some point, that has been passing around this narrative. The actual ad reads, "Book banning extremists are only one seat away from taking control of our school board," which is so dark and ominous. That's one thing. You know, these PACs have gotten involved and they say things that isn't necessarily candidates' point of views. That's their ability as a PAC to say things that candidates can't or won't or whatever, and they have a right to do that. That's fine. But I do take issue with this statement when it's shared around by a candidate, and that candidate is our current board president, Danielle Kincaid, actually is sharing and propagating this thought that there are book banning extremists. And it's important what it says. Actually, it says, and this is why I'm here talking about it, because this, as a current board member, implicates me, apparently. Book banning extremists are only one seat away. This implication means that there are three dark and ominous book banning extremists on our current school board. I don't know who these members are. I've been on the board for 2 years.
Yeah, it doesn't seem that she, from what I've seen, is willing to name the individuals so much.
I haven't. Just through Facebook, I've reposted this and asked her to clarify. I haven't spoken with her directly on this. We do have a board meeting tonight. Maybe it comes up. I don't know.
Yeah, if you are, this is just my position on it. If it is as bad as you claim, you have a responsibility to name the name. You have the responsibility to name the people. I think that if you are sharing information that's claiming that we have these people that are so horrible and so awful, and that this is just going to be the difference between the ominous extremism. I think that it's her responsibility as a sitting school board member to let everyone know in the public, particularly as they go to the polls, who those people are.
I think it's a fair point.
Seems negligent if she doesn't, in fact.
Yeah, and I've made it a priority of mine to not speak negatively about other board members or other candidates. And quite honestly, when it comes to other board members, I don't care how they choose to serve in their seat. It's up to them. I'm not here to critique them. I don't know that all board members share that point of view. In fact, I know that not to be true. But every board member every 3 years is going to have an opportunity to be held accountable by the public, and it's not my job to tell them how to do their job. In this case, I don't know why. I don't know why. I don't know who she's talking about. I guess I could assume, based on where these threats usually go, that I'm implicated in this. But to be clear, 2 years now on the board, there have been zero discussions on specific books or what you might think of as book banning. The only conversations we've had about books at all is around textbooks. And those conversations have primarily come from or started from Dr. Mary Muhammad Khani with the intent of bringing books back to the classroom, because when we first got on the board, books had all but been removed from the classroom setting and replaced with Chromebooks and digital curriculum. We have been successful in spurring the administration to start setting aside funds and bringing back physical textbooks. But that has nothing to do with this thought of book banning. And as a matter of fact, it's the opposite. It's more books in hand. There have been no discussions on removing any books in the time, and not just publicly, but to my knowledge, privately. Certainly, as I'm having private conversations with other board members, which we aren't allowed to do, obviously, in the form of a quorum. Four or more of us can't get together and have these conversations, and I can assure anyone that does not happen. So we only, which kind of leads to why our board meetings sometimes seem so.
Like, don't these people ever talk?
Yeah, they seem. I don't know, like a bit of a circus sometimes.
Disjointed.
Because we have to have those conversations in public. That's the point of Sunshine Law. Yeah. So as we're having these private conversations, nothing along the lines of book banning has happened. So I would love to hear from our board president, Danielle Kincaid, who is running for election a week from today, what this is. Who are these book banning extremists that are on our board? And then also by implication, there are other apparently candidates running who are supposedly book banning extremists if we are one seat away from
well, you'd
taking
think,
over the board.
because the news leader also seems to care deeply about this, you'd think that they would want those answers, yet seemingly they allow these assertions to be made without saying, hey, we want you to, if you're going to make these accusations, we need some specifics here.
I'm hopeful that something's forthcoming on that, and I will give Claudette Riley the benefit of the doubt in that it is a very busy time for her right now with some of the campaign finance reports came out yesterday, compiling all of that. She wrote an article on Curtis Jarrett today, which I thought was interesting. And then we've got a board meeting tonight, and then we're in the last week of the election. She has taken a statement from me on this exact topic we're talking about, this book banning extremist propaganda that's being put out there. So I'm hopeful that in the coming days that she'll have a fair exposure of this claim in some sort of article.
Well, and what I would also like to see is if we do have, instead of just making these assertions with no evidence, that's what the media, they seem to be pretty selective when it comes to their noting that no evidence is provided by accusations. And so far we haven't seen evidence of it, but what books, what people, what books? And then what I'd really like to see is for the publication of the excerpts of the books that some people who are parents oftentimes do have problems with. I notice that always gets left out when you do have parents that do have concerns about what books are appropriate when it comes to what's being provided to kids. But just a good starting point is, who are you talking about and what books are you talking about? I don't know, it seems as if, I'm not a journalist, but if I'm writing a story, those would be sort of my very basic, fundamental bits of information that I'd want to be part of that story.
Exactly. And again, to be clear, no discussions about anything regarding book banning has taken place on this board in the 2 years that I've been on it. And I don't like the narrative. It's become this sort of, it's highly politicized. Mm-hmm. It's a national, and it's funny is the candidate who has spread this misinformation has spoken against this idea, or the groups that back her, this United Springfield PAC, have spoken against this idea of national political talking points dividing our school board, and that's exactly what this is. It's a scare tactic that no one's able to quite wrap their hands around, and it means something different to one person than it does to another.
It's almost as if United Springfield isn't really interested in uniting people. Or the people that they are supporting certainly don't seem interested in doing so. That's my perception.
I'll leave their motives up to them. But it's important to dispel the rumors. Some people think when they hear this topic of book banning as some people want to rewrite history. They want to paint a different picture of history. And I can speak for myself. That is certainly not the case. The only thing that I want is an unbiased picture of history that has no intent to drive thoughts and decisions in a certain direction. I want a balanced approach.
Right.
I want balance. I mean, and it can go either way. I mean, should we be teaching that only a sort of white male perspective of history? Absolutely not. There are valid stories that we can learn from all different perspectives across the country and the world historically. But to the same note, should we only be teaching history that certain groups of people have been marginalized and continue to be, to create that picture as well? No. I mean, we should be teaching a balanced picture of history without any sort of agenda.
It's not like this is that difficult. You wouldn't think anyhow. I suppose it's different. This is, again, my perspective, much of it based off experience and truth, that there are those whose goal is to, it's almost like the media, where once upon a time we had this idea, here's all the information. Now, if you have opinions on the information, that's your deal. And that in the media has shifted from, okay, here's what we want them to believe, so we are going to omit certain things and then more heavily focus on other things so that they draw the proper conclusion. And it seems as if in our schools over the years, we have gone from here's what happened, and now you can think what you'd like about it, to, well, we need students to understand that we were a bad country or that there's privilege, and so we need to selectively provide the information so that they arrive at that proper conclusion. And I think it's just that's part of the reason there is such a divide here, because the goal's different. One is to educate young people as to here are the things that happen, if we're talking about history, social sciences, and those who believe that there is a conclusion that the young people should come to, and so they base what information they provide selectively on what they believe is going to get them to that conclusion.
And that's the root of where we get ourselves
Right.
in trouble. And so I think the way to phrase that is teach our students how to think, not what to think.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kelly Byrne with us from the Springfield School Board. We're going to take a break, continue on here. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers, everyone.
Thank you. Quick Draw Gun in Monette. Brad and his team down there, they are always expanding their shop so they can better serve you as a customer. And that means they are always adding new accessories, new services, and new inventory as well. And Quick Draw Gun, they actually just added a handful of product lines that you can now expect to see in the shop. So the next time that you take a trip down there to Monette, you can expect to see products from Benali, Franke, Uberti, and Live Free Armory. And of course, Quick Draw Gun, they are still offering everything from scope mounting, minor gunsmithing, custom laser engraving, and custom Cerakoting services. And plus, they have hundreds of accessories for you to choose from. So if you are looking for a new gun shop with great inventory and amazing customer service, you have definitely found it with Quick Draw Gun in Monette. Now, in the meantime, if you are looking for something specific, or maybe you just have questions, go ahead and give Brad and his team a call today. You can find all of that contact information for Quick Draw Gun in Monette under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
First alert forecast, sponsored by Wolfpack Cleaners, your residential and commercial cleaning professionals. From Color 10 Fox 49 meteorologist Tom Schmidt. Mostly cloudy, a high near 46 today, 28 tonight. Widespread frost tomorrow morning before 10, otherwise sunny, a high near 55. Thursday, widespread frost in the morning, then sunny with a high near 64. Kelly Byrne with us this morning, Springfield School Board. Had I pre-mentioned something that we were going to talk about? We got to talking off air about completely unrelated, like the origins of phrases and terms and so forth. I forgot what it was that I said we're going to talk about.
I think we're still on this book banning thing.
All right. Well, perhaps we were.
There's another source that has spread this false information. And if anyone has seen it, is this chart from the NAACP that interviewed the different candidates. Have you seen this?
I haven't read through it. I know that there was.
So they interviewed the different candidates and did not release the actual responses to the interviews.
Oh, well, that's.
But they rated them with
okay.
a easy to read stoplight system of green, yellow, and red.
Okay.
With red being the worst rating and yellow being concerns.
That definitely sounds like a way to put something out if you're concerned about accuracy and transparency.
Right. So some of these candidates have released their interview responses afterward, after being rated poorly. And so on this topic of book banning, Chad Rollins and Landon McCarter were rated poorly, and apparently Susan Provance as well, in terms of the NAACP had concerns. And then Miriam Muhammad Khani received the poorest rating, which was denoted with a red stoplight on this idea of book banning. And she has shared her response, and
okay,
I'll read that.
I want to hear that.
And for Miriam, this is a very brief response, so perfect for the radio. Do you support the banning of books in school libraries? Is the question. Here's her response. No, book banning is a false narrative propagated to stoke fear in people, and that it's thrown around so casually is concerning. I've consistently advocated for and worked toward putting more books in the hands of students. Non-curricular content, just as with curricular content, is curated by staff who have the appropriate expertise as determined by the superintendent. Dr. Lathan ensures that funds are used to purchase books that supplement students' and staff's needs in the best way possible. So that received the worst possible rating from the NAACP.
Well, based off that answer, it sounds to me like the NAACP wants book banning. If they don't like that response,
yeah, that is confusing.
Yeah,
and then
so I guess they do. That's my interpretation here.
And then Landon's response to that same question that he posted, when it says, "Do you support the banning of books in school libraries?" was no. Period. That was it. No.
Well, so clearly the NAACP of Springfield supports book banning.
I guess.
I mean, based off of what they deem to be problem answers, they don't like it when candidates are against it and think it's wrong.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think people just, I mean, when you follow this stuff, it becomes obvious, and it's distraction. What I see with these, vote 417 or in this other stuff, and none of them are talking about the failures that are occurring. None of it. Even the Springfield United, it's just, let's all just get along. I'm like, well, I don't know. How about the failure of the schools? How about we talk about that? How about we talk about the, year after year after year, the fact that we're failing the kids? Why this seems to be of no interest to them whatsoever, which makes sense that they're backing some of the people that are largely responsible for that. And instead, let's make up stories about book banning so that people get scared and vote on that and just screw the kids. Let's continue this decline, continue to F them over, and just pat ourselves on the back and talk about, give each other awards and join the same little social groups and talk about how wonderful we are. It's infuriating to me.
I find myself using this term, I feel like, too much, but to me it's intellectual dishonesty.
Oh, totally.
And that's what I see with
one-dimensional.
With some of these candidates, you have candidates that are being intellectually honest, and they're approaching the facts and the issues that we need to address, which is we need to improve academic achievement. And one of the primary ways to do that is, or one of the foundational things that we need to do to start that path is to get a handle on student behaviors through the form of discipline. And this whole idea of bringing up other concepts that do not exist right now, that do not help that cause of improving Springfield Public Schools, such as book banning, is completely intellectually dishonest.
Right.
When you don't have other candidates that have a track record or have said anything about that topic. And another one is school safety, for example. We have candidates running on, I've championed school safety, and
It's all good, everyone.
so in the 2 years that I've been on the board, we can talk about school safety and what's happened. We passed a bond last year that was $220 million to pay for a lot of improvements in our schools, and one of a chunk of that, I want to say it was around $30 million, was dedicated to it was more than $30 million, was dedicated to school safety specifically. And the way in which it was by building several more of these storm shelters around. And then Laura Mullins mentioned yesterday the safety film, and another one was fencing, completing fencing around playgrounds. And
for people, the safety film, it goes over glass to make it bulletproof, or at least bullet protective.
So what's happened in terms of safety in the school district in the last 2 years that I've been on the board, the administration has put these sort of items in front of us in various ways in votes, and we have voted 7-0 to pass them. There is no controversy here. There is no candidate who is not good on this issue, but in terms of leading this issue and leading efforts of safety, I would say there are 2 issues that we have discussed that where candidates have led, or board members have led in this issue. One of those is an area that I led, which was the district had called out this problem. Some of our elementary schools playgrounds do not have complete fencing around them, and they wanted to put that on the bond, which required us to wait many months to pass the bond, get the funds, and then put it up. And I led the effort to say, we have, we're not talking about a large sum of money here. Well,
relative to the overall picture,
yes. We have plenty of money to afford that project now. What are we waiting for? So by asking that question and by generating support with the board, we were able to ramp up those efforts. And I would say in that particular instance, I led on an issue of school safety. Additionally, cybersecurity is an area of school safety that Dr. Merriam and I led on to review our policies and our disclosures and all the legal language that needs to be added and agreed to by the companies that we do business with in technology to make sure that they're abiding by our policies to keep our students' identities safe online. That was an area of school safety that we've led on. And the last one is discipline. When you have issues that arise to the extent that students have been put in the hospital, or teachers are concerned about their own safety because students that are larger than them are exhibiting behavior in classrooms that's threatening, that's not safe. These are issues of safety that we've led on. And I know Dr. Merriam has led on these issues with me side by side. I haven't heard any specifics from others that have claimed, they're running ads now on school safety. And these people aren't against school safety, but I don't know that they've done anything stronger or different than other board members or other candidates would.
Well, I think what happens is they know that with a lot of voters, because of a number of the items that have been in the news, much of which the attention was brought by Springfield NEA, they know that when people hear school safety, that's what they're thinking of primarily. And they know that people have real concerns about that. And so they're out there, I'm the school safety one. And so it's marketing is what it is, in my interpretation of it. I want to take a break, and we'll continue on with Kelly Byrne here this morning, talking about some of the issues within the Springfield Public School District. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Kelly Byrne in studio with us as we talk about a number of the issues regarding the Springfield School District. Of course, elections are going to be, coming up very soon. Next week, I guess it is already. And I wanted to make a couple other just observations. You talked a lot about the disinformation that's out there regarding book banning. And what is clear to me is there is an attempt by those who are largely responsible for the continued failure, or they share the same beliefs as those who are responsible for the failures in the school. And so they can't really campaign on, well, we want to continue to do this. So instead, oh, those people are bad and they want to ban books. They don't really say who those people are. They just suggest it. And they don't say what books they are and so forth. But there is a lot of manipulation, I think, of definitions that also is relied upon by those who want to spread the disinformation. And it's the term, banning itself. And, classrooms that have books, I mean, some, I guess, still do, right, to some degree. There's a decision made, because I don't know how that process works, but it's my understanding there are certain companies that provide textbooks. Well, there are certain textbooks that are chosen. That does not mean that the others are, quote, banned. There are choices that have to be made. Libraries are physical locations, just like cafeterias are physical locations, and you have a lunch menu. And, just because on your menu you've got pizza day, that doesn't mean you're banning corn dogs. It just means that those are the choices that are being made. And there are choices that, yes, are regarding appropriateness. And some of the same people who say that if you have a parent that's like, hey, I don't want my kid having access to pornography, which even those who support the books being in they know that that's what it is, because they don't want that stuff read out loud. When parents, and we've seen this nationally speaking, attempt to read out from these books, they are sometimes arrested. The video feeds are shut down. They're thrown out of the council meetings. So even the supporters of these books, they know what's in it is inappropriate, which is why they try to prevent people from knowing what it is. But so that decision to say, okay, when it comes to what is going to help our kids be prepared for the world, to say, I don't think that pornography is something, I think that we can find something else that's better. I don't think that is book banning any more than whenever schools, and I assume Springfield School, are there certain websites that students can't go to?
Yes.
I mean, okay. So where is the outrage over that from these people? Why are they not out there? Why aren't there letters to the editor from Stephen Kleinsmith, former superintendent of Nixa Public Schools, about banning information when it comes to websites? And I think I know why, because they realize that demonstrates the hypocrisy, and they do support that, but they're using this book issue because of the imagery of it and the ease with which it is to demonize people as a way to distract. And it's very frustrating, because to me it's dishonest. And we almost get lost sight of the fact that, aside from whether it's even appropriate or not, it doesn't help the kids. And that's what it's almost as if they get us arguing over things that aren't even, it shouldn't even be there, perhaps because it doesn't in any way, shape, or form make the kids better prepared to get out into the real world. And the last thing I'll say on it, and I've heard this marketing of it, particularly with kids, it's like, well, no parent should have the right to tell me, who want to ban these books, what I should have access to. But the reality is, it's the other way around, because if I'm a parent and I don't want pornographic material in the library, that isn't preventing some other person's child from ever having access to it. As parents, they still have the ability to give their child that.
Right.
But if you decide to put it in the library and I don't want my child to see it, I don't have the ability to stop them from having access to it. So in reality, the people who want the information put in there are the ones that are denying me as a parent to make that decision, not the other way around. So those are just a few points I wanted to make when it came to this issue of book banning.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. And surely we must all, and I hear other candidates and other board members, other candidates, other people say these things, and I think we can all agree that there is simply material that is not age appropriate for students. Where we may disagree is where we draw those lines of what ages and what material is appropriate or not. And I've heard on the KY3 did a series of interviews with candidates, and I heard both Danielle Kincaid and Dr. Kyler Sherman-Wilkins say in a question regarding critical race theory, CRT, and is it taught in the schools or should it be, or whatever the question was, they both said that critical race theory is not age appropriate for students in Springfield Public Schools. So if you believe that there is curriculum that is not age appropriate, how is that different than saying books that have pornographic material in it is not age appropriate? It's the same thing. So let's be intellectually honest about this and have a discussion rather than saying people want to ban books. Then if you want to have a discussion, well, it should center on what is age appropriate if we all agree that there is content that is not age appropriate.
Well, and I would also, again, back to the internet situation, those who claim that they are totally opposed to having any sort of standards when it comes to what books are appropriate in libraries, particularly for elementary school students, I would ask them to be consistent and apply that same standard to the internet and say there's nothing that should be off limits whatsoever. There should be no standards when it comes to deciding what information children have access to via the internet through the schools.
Yeah.
Let's see. And, you know, the news leader, I think that would be a great challenge if we're going to look for consistency from the news leader. But I think it's clear the news leader is more of an advocate for some of these candidates, and so they're not going to lay out those honest discussion points. So, Kelly Byrne, as always, a pleasure. Was there anything else that I missed that people, because I know there are a lot of things that go on within the schools and the school districts that I'm not necessarily aware of?
Well, we have a board meeting tonight.
Okay.
We'll see what happens. Nothing terribly contentious on the agenda that I'm aware of, but sometimes things tend to pop up. Who knows?
I want to ask you this because I've wondered the question. I've wondered this, and I imagine other people do as well. Because they will see, for example, as we talk about the school board president and helping spread disinformation about some of the others. And a lot of people would think, man, if somebody did that to me, I'd be really upset. But then you all got to get in a room together. You got to, what's that like?
Well, you mentioned the school board president, and I'll give her credit. She's an attorney. So disagreeing on things and then walking out of the room and being friendly and engaging is something that she's been doing her whole life. So she's good at compartmentalizing in that way. It doesn't mean that she doesn't also make some mistakes and saying some things about other board members like we're talking about that is maybe divisive. We'll see if she walks that back or not. You know, there's some board members that are better at it than others. It's something I certainly try to do. I try to have discussions about the topic in a way that we can flush things out and have productive conversations. It's business. There's nothing personal, and I certainly make it a matter to, you know, don't hold grudges and act in good faith. And that's certainly the way that I try to approach it. But we're all human, and maybe we all make some mistakes and can get better on that front. You know, this idea that the board is not setting a good example for students because of how we treat each other, I think is the exact opposite of reality. One thing that people in general, but increasingly so with our youth, struggle with is to find out how to engage and disagree professionally and appropriately in an good faith effort to find solutions. You know, that discussion has been, our ability to do that has been so broken down by social media and us just attacking each other on social media that actually I think what the board is doing for the most part in public, face to face, having tough discussions and disagreeing, you know, like the strategic plan is a great example of that. We talk for hours and hours on end over the course of many months about that and disagreed many times. And in the end, we found something that we voted 7-0 on. And that is a great example to our students of how to disagree respectfully in a way that is productive. So, you know, we did that recently on the legislative platform as well. Changes need to be made on that. I kind of led that effort and was able to get some people together on it with some compromise, and we ended up with something much better than what we had. And we did so respectfully. So this Now, if we're interrupting one another,
Mm-hmm.
if we're name calling, if
Sure.
we're bringing grudges to the table, if we're worried about things that go on in people's personal lives, not, then none of that is appropriate. And I certainly try to make sure that I don't do that.
Right.
Set a good example for that.
Kelly Burns, it's always a great pleasure, sir.
Thank you, Nick.
Yeah, appreciate talking with you this morning. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. If you didn't make it out, we got a couple minutes left here till 9 o'clock. Our promotions director, Houston, will be at Ming Auto Beauty Center on Republic Road up from National. Those free glasses that you can watch the Great North American Eclipse coming up in April. Custom shade window tinting, a division of Springfield Wraps, providing those. If you aren't able to get there in the next couple minutes, don't worry. We'll hit some other locations coming up. And as we do get closer to the school board elections, I am going to talk more on this. The book banning hoax and the hypocrisy of some of these people, and the cowardly nature of some that are, they want to accuse falsely some of the school board candidates and members of wanting to ban books, but they don't have the integrity to name the people. That way they can't be pinned down with it. And, I hate cowardness and dishonesty. And so much of this false book banning narrative is done all for the purpose of keeping the schools failing. So there are many layers of reasons to be upset by this. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed. Talk to you tomorrow.